In this video, we will examine how Bitcoin may realistically reach a value of $200,000 per coin. So, without further delay, let's get started with the video. People have referred to you as insane. You're making a purchase at an all-time high. Let me just state for the record that I will continue to purchase at the all-time high price for as long as the market remains stable. On January 26, 2022, Michael Saylor, a Bitcoin bull and the CEO of MicroStrategy, talked at length with the only podcast in a 2-hour interview that was released online. In the interview, Michael displayed a very comedic and joyful side, reliving and explaining his now famous tweet from 2013 in which he predicted that Bitcoin would eventually go to zero, and then going into great detail about he and MicroStrategy did a complete 180 and eventually discovered Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Sailing Sailor highlighted how he would always acquire Bitcoins at their all-time high and then described with confidence how Bitcoin may and would ultimately reach $200,000 per Bitcoin and even higher levels. Pay attention to his explanation. I think that people that have lived in the crypto industry for the last decade, they lived through a very difficult time, and I respect that, and their lessons are their lessons, and you should respect them for what they learned. But just because you lived through the first decade of the industry does not mean that you can draw upon solely your experiences and your data sets to extrapolate the second decade of the industry, right? You fought wars with bows and arrows and spears your entire life, and I show up with a bunch of dudes with machine guns, and then you want to call the battle strategy. And the point is, you're fighting the last war, and there are elements of what you learned in the past decade that are relevant, but let's just deal with the elephant in the room here, which is, if you look at Bitcoin and you look at all the other cryptos, there's a crypto economy. It's got its own future. It's very complicated and murky. We could talk about it for 3 hours. There are competitive issues, security issues, regulatory issues, nation-state issues complicated. Then there's Bitcoin, a digital property on a dominant network. It does not need any of the other cryptocurrencies to be successful. For Bitcoin to be successful, there are any of 10,000 entities. The Sovereign Wealth Fund of Dhabi, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia, the Qataris, the MRI, the Emiratis, the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund, every public investor, every macro investor, every large company on earth, any municipality, any state, any government, any. There are 10, 20,000 people who go to sleep tonight. They could wake up tomorrow morning, and they could say, I think Bitcoin looks like crypto gold. I'm going to go ahead and put 3% of my portfolio in it. That means I'm going to buy $4 billion of it. I'm going to buy $4 or $5 billion of it. It is nothing to me. It is nothing. It is like figure out how important 2% of your money is. It is like that deal. As I noticed it, I'm going to put 3% of my assets into it. We will see where it goes. LFG. And they put the news release out on the wire, and Bitcoin doubles or triples. And then, if the Sovereign Wealth Fund of some Middle Eastern state did it, if they bought $5 billion, these people are $500 billion. Like the intelligence of sovereign wealth funds. They are not, the central banks of smart countries. They are not sitting on a bunch of long-dated T-bills. They are not holding a bunch of sovereign debt. They are Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google. It is like it is that day that Warren Buffett gets up and he says to some dude that works for him, I got $50 billion. Figure out something to invest it in. And the dude says, oh, we bought $10 billion with Apple. And then Apple triples and Warren Buffett made more money on Apple stock, which was a delegated decision by a dude. He made more money on Apple stock than he made in his entire life. And he's acknowledged to be maybe one of the most successful investors in the last 100 years. And yet the thing he made the most money on was like an afterthought. So back to what does this mean to Bitcoin? It is like some dude with a $400 billion balance sheet can delegate to a portfolio manager to look at this thing. And that portfolio manager, can I say, I'm going to put 2% into it? And if If you pick up the paper and you read that the sovereign wealth fund of such and such state bought $5 billion worth of it, what happens next is somebody at Google says, "Guess we can hold $5 billion of it." And then somebody at Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley's, "I guess we probably should grab some." And then Ray Dalio with his $50 billion or $100 billion or $150 billion. Okay, well, I guess instead of like 0.5%, maybe 3%. Okay. And then all of a sudden, Bitcoin spends from 40,000 to 50,000 and 50,000 to 100,000. And I guess what I'm telling you is there are 10,000 people that could make $5 billion in 30 days if they wanted to bend over and pick up the money without taking a risk. What are your opinions on the sailor's point of view here? Comment below if you think we'll see a 6-figure Bitcoin price in the near future. If you like the video, please click on the like button to let others know. It just takes a second, yet it makes a significant difference to the channel. And maybe, more crucially, it assists you in finding someone who is similar to you. New wants to keep up with the latest developments in the Bitcoin field. If you're new to the channel, click on the subscribe button and the bell notification to be alerted when a new video is posted. Thank you very much for watching. Till next time!